Hello, it's Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Associate Professor and Program Director of Communication, Media, and Ethics at Mid-America Christian University. I'm here to talk a little bit about our digital media journal for column 2113, Media Culture and Social Influence. In this class, we are tackling media and communication in conversation from somewhat of an introductory perspective. We're looking through a couple of different texts, right? I hate to call them textbooks, but texts. And then in addition, you all are tackling some media texts, okay? So you're looking at various mass media, and we're trying to make some sense of it, or rather make deeper sense of it, draw some connections, perform some analyses, and gain insight, ideally, into what kinds of persuasive, overt, and even covert messages are sent to us through media, particularly popular culture. In this course, we've noted how we try to utilize one specific genre. And it's not because it's a superior genre. It's not because it's the most beloved genre. It's not because it's the most hated genre. But it simply is a genre that lends itself to one of those themes that we will tackle in the readings, and that is the use of signs and symbols. And so anytime we're studying communication, especially from a broad perspective, we're looking at how signs and symbols work. We're looking at how they communicate information. And what funner genre to explore together and individually than the spy genre, where symbols are often presented to us in heavy-handed ways, but these symbols don't always carry the exact meaning on the surface that they may mean beneath, right? And so to coincide with that course-long theme, we have our media journals. And over the course of the accelerated class, you will complete 5 journals. That's 1 per week. And our unique focus for the journals is to commit to a single series, ideally something that is in the vein of the spy or kind of thriller mystery series. And you will select one series and then cover episodes of that series each week for your media journal. So when we talk about tackling a single series, we understand that in 5 weeks, you don't have a ton of time to survey an entire series or to go through an entire season, even in many instances. So we're just asking that you at least select 5 episodes. And this is for another reason. While many of you may be taking this course as part of your humanities elective, it is designed as one of our introductory classes in the comm major, okay? And so one of the tenets that we seek to fulfill for students within the major is to gain a grasp and have exposure to a variety of media writing styles. And we tackle at least 2 of those writing styles in this course, all right? Our final, to peek ahead, right, to the very end, is a film review. Now, I start there because it's one of the most familiar concepts that we have. We read film reviews all the time. In fact, film reviews are so popular culturally, right? They have such a persuasive magnetism in culture that we've devoted time, energy, and labor to these modern websites that aggregate those critical reviews. And you may know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, when I say aggregated scores or aggregated reviews, I'm talking about Rotten Tomatoes. I'm talking about Metacritic, all right? So we have these websites that help us choose, right? They help us. They guide us with what kind of media we want to select or elect for our consuming pleasures. But in the comm major, we're interested in more than just consuming information. We're interested in transference. We're interested in learning how to shift, right? We see ourselves as liminal figures. And so these writing exercises offer us an opportunity to shift from passive modes of leisurely media consumption to active modes of critical reflection, right? Being able to look at a text and not only understand it for its sort of narrative or entertainment values, but also dig down deeper and see what kind of work is going on beneath the surface, okay? And so we get to have fun with media in this class. And you have some agency there to select or propose your text. So you're going to write about it each of our 5 weeks in your media journal. And so select an episode, write about it, and there are a couple of ways you can approach it. And I also want to stress why it's a significant exercise. I mentioned previously that film reviews are a popular form and one that we're heavily ingrained with and familiar with societally. Even if you all don't read them on the regular, you have that exposure, you have that knowledge that they exist, that they work out there. Well, in recent decades, a different kind of form that is similar but yet unique has emerged as a popular writing form. And that would be the authoring of the television recap. All right. And so if you surf the internet, if you ever dive in or click over and read entertainment media, it's possible you've read a TV recap, especially in recent years. With television becoming such a dominant form of cultural popularity and selection, everything from, you know, cable TV dramas to reality television to even these streaming shows that everyone loves to quote unquote binge watch. Well, this is modern television, right? This is 21st century television. And there are active writers, people out there putting together responses to that media, that writing about it. You know, it's our way of connecting or talking back. You know, you may have you hear of the concept of live tweeting, right? And many channels encourage that because they're looking to cultivate a sense of community with their programming. And so the TV recap is a form that the contemporary journalist, media journalist, digital journalist can practice. So that's a specific kind of skill set that we can work on. And so even if you're not continuing on in the comm major, simply dipping in, we're excited to have you as part of that. And we want to recognize this gives us a great opportunity to sharpen our skills, get better as writers. And so one of the recommended formulas that we can use to write about a given television text would be the DIET formula, all right? And so that's not a health regimen. It's an acronym for describe, interpret, evaluate, and theorize about the text. The TV text, the episode text. And so usually what you'll find when you start to look at television closer beneath the surface, there are some resonant themes. There may be repeated themes, but there are going to be aspects about the show that make it familiar to us, but also challenge us. And when we can start to identify those elements and talk about them in what we call a discursive manner, to write about them, we're performing something that goes beyond simply kind of vegging out, right? And kind of, again, passively consuming that text. So there are various ways that we can approach writing a TV recap, but the DIET formula does steer us in a helpful direction, especially given the minimalist word count that's required, which is relatively small. So describe the text, right? You want to describe what was the focus of the episode, what characters did it involve, or what was the story about, what was the point of it, in other words, but you don't want to stop there, right? So if you're interpreting, right, you may be adding some insight. You're adding your own kind of personal observations about it. Well, to evaluate it is to consider its effectiveness, or maybe consider its persuasiveness. Did it strike you in some manner? Was it offensive in some way? Did it here's a TV term that we use. Did it jump the shark, right? Did it sort of supersede its own plausibility? Or is it, you know, there are expensive shows versus inexpensive, you know, all television's expensive, but they're inexpensive looking shows, right? We often refer to those as kind of campy shows or low budget, you know, kind of B shows, kind of like we say B movies. Did the show underwhelm, right, due to production values? I don't know. All of these things are somewhat subjective to the eye of the viewer, right? And so you have some agency there, pun intended. So we want to describe, interpret, and thus evaluate that text, evaluate its merits. Did it persuade? Did it compel you? How did the pieces come together? Did they not come together? And then finally theorize. And when we say theorize, as that T in diet, it's the ultimate takeaway, right? What is your takeaway? What's your final takeaway? Is this recommendable? Does it meet its expectations? Does it exceed its expectations? Is it exceptional television? Is it exceptional storytelling? I don't know. But that's one way you can approach it. I often advise you can feel empowered to bring in the readings when comfortable, you know, cite some sources. This can elevate the content that you're writing about. And I think if you're looking for ways to incorporate those readings, that could be a fun way to bring it in and have a good time doing it. That can help you process key terms from the content, right? And put them into play within a text of your choosing. And then finally, there may be even a method you want to experiment with. We're going to be introduced to Arthur Asa Berger's focal points model early in one of his texts, and if I'm not mistaken, it possibly crosses over into two different readings, and so you can practice playing with it there, right? And so ultimately, our goal is to get experience writing, and each week get a little bit better, to improve in our media journal, which is a covert, right, way of practicing writing a TV recap. And for comm majors, that's ultimately going to become part of your digital media portfolio that you slowly put together throughout the course of the major. And you know, it becomes one of those final projects that you get to submit. Same thing goes for our course final, the film review. It's yet another distinct style of media writing that can help you familiarize with the various forms of mass mediated communication that we can practice as working professionals, but also enjoy as a leisurely activity for ourselves, or to build, co-create community with others. Hopefully this explanation of the process we're seeking here adds a little bit of a deeper understanding, and perhaps gives us some momentum heading into the course as we use the spy genre to better understand communication and media in media culture and social influence. Thank you for listening.